Deschetti. I'm with EVA, events management platform, and we are excited to have you with us today. We've got a very special session. So welcome everyone. Before we get into introductions, just wanted to chat with you a little bit about the housekeeping. But we here at EVA, we love sharing things that we've learned along the way. I know as a meeting planner myself and an accidental tech, learned a lot through my journey and continue to learn a lot. And we like sharing that information, also introducing you to people we've met along the way. So today's session, I hope that you enjoy it, get inspired by it, and find it motivating. Um, a little bit about this session is qualified for CAE and CMP credits. We'll make sure you get your certificate of attendance, upload information into EIC, the Events Industry Council. But if you have any questions, you should definitely let us know. You can reach us at meetings@evareg.com or here in the chat box. We're happy to answer any questions. This session is being recorded and we are going to be sharing that with you in a couple of days. We like to clean things up and send that out your way. And we'll also include contact information of our speakers because I think you will find them just really refreshing and want to get in touch with them. Let's see here. Bart, I am joined by someone very special. Bart, are you there? There you are, Bart.
Yes.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for doing this, Vinu, and for setting it up. I mean, great idea a couple months ago, and we're making it happen with some incredible panelists. So thank you for doing this.
I am so excited to have you. We met such a long time ago and I have enjoyed our relationship and friendship and just talking about what's happening in our industry. One thing, if you all don't know Bart, I'll make sure you get connected to him on LinkedIn, and we'll share that information here in the chat in a moment. But Bart is a motivational speaker and training program with Most People Don't. And Bart, you are probably one of the most inspirational, motivational people I have ever met. You find the positive in everyone and you let them shine with that. And that has truly been something I've been amazed with over the years of knowing you. So thank you for doing this topic today. Our industry, even before the pandemic, has always been ever changing, whether it's how to do BEOs or reading contracts or technology. It's just an industry where our people, our peers are up for the challenge. And I think the last 2 years has been really tough and it's kind of proven that they are. And we talked a lot about this and I am excited to hear from the great panelists that you pulled together today and just hear about their inspirations.
Yeah, thank you, Vinu. Appreciate it. Yeah, and I know I'm looking at the list of panelists and I know many of you, and it goes way back, right? 32 years in the industry. So some really terrific friends. Most recently, part of Ritz-Carlton and part of Marriott Luxury Brands leading their global sales team, a portion of it. And then when the pandemic hit, things were changing and I had to hit pause on what I wanted to be able to do. This was my passion, to be able to spread positivity. So Most People Don't, and Why You Should was a book I wrote probably 7 or 8 years ago. I would take time off from Ritz-Carlton to present to that idea. And when the pandemic happened and a few health scares happened, I said, this is what I want to do full time. So it has been a blast and has enabled me, and this is going to lead right into deeper, not distracting. It has enabled me to connect Vinu with people like you even deeper. The other people, the panelists that I'm going to introduce here in a moment, to be able to know them, to see them via this platform or any other platform, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that had not this whole situation occurred. So I feel that I am learning every single day from Vinu, from people like you, from our panelists, and from so many of the participants that are on the phone right now. So this is a great example of deeper and not distracting. Are we ready to go with the intros?
Let's go for it.
All right.
I'm excited.
Okay. All right, so deeper, not distracting. And I'm assuming when I'm introducing them, should they turn on their camera so we can kind of see them? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Or how about everybody? Yeah, everyone want to turn on. So I'm going to first introduce Kelly Bishop. Kelly spent quite some time with a Fortune 100 insurance company. She is waving. Yeah, doing the yes. Okay, she's there. So she is taking this time now, since leaving this Fortune 100 insurance company, to identify what she wants to do. She is one of the brightest, most soulful people that I have ever experienced. And we've been talking and chatting, and she's going to be processing a company that is talking about leadership, excellence, and positivity. So whether or not you know that fully, Kelly, I'm telling you, that's what you need to do. It's about leadership and positivity and experiences. So Kelly Bishop, we're happy to have you join. Just want to say hello and where you're from.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Bart. And I like where you're going with that idea. My home base is here in Milton, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston.
Awesome. Awesome. Kelly, happy to have you join. We will go with ladies first. Martha Bunker, certainly an icon in the meetings and events industry. Had been with Fidelity as senior vice president, handling so many things, meetings and events and conferences and sponsorship, just a terrific person, and is now focused on doing some consulting work, not only with Fidelity, but with companies like Most People Don't and many other people. So just a rock star, superb knowledge, superb approach. You are more than your business card. Her understanding is be nice to people, even though you don't need anything from them. And she sees immediately right through people. So Martha, can you just share where you are based?
Right now, I'm based in Naples, Florida. And in the summer, we go back to the New England area into Rhode Island. So thank you, Bart, for that great introduction. Happy to be here.
No, awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We are going to go in non-alphabetical order. Joshua David is a dear friend that I met just recently. My daughter just graduated school from Virginia Tech. We're so thrilled and proud. And she decided that she is going to accept a job working in Hawaii. She had never been to Hawaii before. So in January, my wife and I took Alexa to Hawaii, and we love being outside. We love the magical, mystical feeling of Hawaii. We went to a farmer's market, and I was called, basically destined to meet this gentleman and the love of his life, Dana. Joshua David, I refer to him as a spiritual gangster. He is a gentleman that shares positivity. He encourages people to accept their personal vibrations, to exude good thoughts. And when you do that, professional abundance is going to come back. And he is just, again, one of the most intellectual, transcendental, I just made up that word, do you like it? People that I know. He has helped me so much with my growth and development. So when we're talking about technology, we're talking about change, Joshua, I thought would be a perfect person to be on this podcast, this discussion with us. Joshua, I just said everything about you. Where are you based?
Well, aloha. I am actually based in Oahu, Hawaii.
Yeah, yeah, please.
This is my home. Even
Yeah.
though I grew up right between Buffalo and Niagara Falls, being here, this is my home. This will be my home base probably forever now.
Awesome. So Joshua does speaking as well, and we're planning a couple of retreats to be able to help people improve their positive thoughts moving forward. So Joshua, thank you for joining us early from Hawaii.
Thank you for having me.
Last but not least, Doug Barman. Doug and I have been family friends for, gosh, quite some time. His wife and my wife went to high school together, maybe even middle school or even elementary school. I don't know. But Doug is a senior vice president with Conference Direct. He is also an entrepreneur, has his own company that helps to motivate, inspire hoteliers and people in the meetings and events industry. And Doug does not like to admit this, but I think it's a massive accomplishment. Doug has led his Conference Direct team since the inception of his business to produce over $1 billion worth of hotel revenue. So just one of the kindest, most authentic people that I know. Doug Barman, where are you based?
Thank you, Bart. I'm in Potomac, Maryland, in the DC suburbs.
Oh, so we're close. We should get together.
We should sometime, maybe.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right. And you can tell this is meant to be just informal and relaxing and educating. All of these individuals have been, luckily and fortunately for me, on my podcast. So I'll give everyone an opportunity before we conclude to text a number and a message to me, and then you will get the link to everyone's podcast, because not only are they kind human beings, they are so smart and intelligent in being able to look and perceive the things and changes in the meetings and events world. So we're going to dive right into the question. As the topic relates, deeper, not distracting. Kelly, I'm going to ask you this question first. The first question is going to be the same for everyone. And then we'll have some time for a little Q&A back and forth. Also, if you do have questions, Vinu and Alexis, what is the best way to be able to share? Is it in the chat box?
It is. Just feel free to ask your questions in the chat box, and Bart will help you out here and
Okay.
draw
All right.
your attention to them. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So Kelly, first question to you. What have you seen based on your experience that has allowed deeper connections because of technology? So what have you seen?
You know, Bart, I think what I have seen, especially over the last 2 years during the pandemic, was being able to talk to each other on video. I think, that was a whole new concept for teams. So I'm going to take this from a leadership kind of standpoint here. Having my team when we couldn't all meet face to face or we couldn't travel together, it was like, how do we connect? We quickly had to learn and understand technology, and we really embraced that. We took it that, for us, it created a motivation, a trust. We built stronger relationships than what we probably could have if we were in the office, because not everyone is always in the office, or some people are traveling or whatnot. But being able to have this technology where we could sit down together and have these meetings and look each other into each other's eyes and see our expressions, that really helped us build that culture over the last 2 years. Some examples of the things that we would do is, we had a feelings wheel, and every week I'd get on the call with my team and we'd go through a feelings wheel and really share our emotions and how we were feeling and how could we help each other with this to move on, motivate, inspire, and what's next? Let's tackle the next thing or get you back on track. We would create storytelling and
Kelly,
photo sharing.
Sorry, Kelly, for interrupting. A feelings wheel. I'm not familiar with what that is. Can you share?
Yes, sure. It's a feelings wheel that just helps you discover, kind of different emotions and how you're feeling. But, you may feel that you're disappointed, but then, you kind of dig deeper and maybe it's that you're feeling sad because something is going on way deep inside, but you felt like you were disappointed in someone when really it's a sadness that you're feeling about maybe something that you did internally. So, it was really interesting, but it helped us really connect, I think, and get to know each other, which created a stronger team culture. We shared pictures every week through the camera and through the screens, and we were able to tell stories about what we are doing on the weekends. And it helped us just grow that culture and build our relationships. Whereas before we had all this great technology, we'd be in the office or traveling where maybe you'd have 2 of the 10 people on your team there. So you weren't really connecting with everybody, but this technology gave an opportunity and experience to connect together.
Wow.
Another thing that we did is I had created what I called below the watermark. And so I'd have one person volunteer to share their story and like really get inside and share with the team, like, why you act the way you do, or why you're maybe super type A and controlling, or why you have certain hot buttons, things that you wouldn't normally see just from water cooler talk, or different examples like that. So those are all great ways that we use technology to connect. We also would connect with our vendor partners. We'd set up calls just to connect during the pandemic because we wanted to reach out and make sure that they were okay. And you're our friend, we want to take care of you. How can we, just even if it's saying hello and we're giving smiles, or tell us that you're upset and let's talk about it, let's get past it.
And Kelly, I love all of these things. I still want to go back to the feeling wheel. Is it an actual wheel? Is it something that you spin? Is it written already with feelings?
Yes, so there's a feeling wheel. I believe there's 4 key core values of feelings, and there's maybe 100 that spin out into that. It's a beautiful wheel with just about every emotion that you could find on it. And there were definitely times, though, I have to say, where my team, someone would be looking for a certain emotion or feeling and could not find it on that wheel. So it was like going to the closest feeling or vibe that you had, and to be able to share and explain that with each other. We got to the point there where we were so far into always being on the screen, on the cameras with the technology, that I had offered, like, hey, we can take our meetings, our team huddles, whatever, as walk and talks. and nobody
Yeah.
wanted to because they loved being able to see each other's expressions and really
Yeah.
understand like what you're thinking or feeling, or if you're listening to me, right? Like that's a big one. Are you paying attention? Are you listening? But how do you feel? And I want to see your smile. I want to
Yeah.
see the crystal of your eyes. So
Yeah.
I think that those were some really important pieces to
Yeah.
technology.
Yeah, and so Kelly, let me just kind of summarize. You were using technology to allow more communication and, as the title would suggest, deeper connections with team members to help embrace the culture. And I'm assuming if you would Google feeling wheel, you could probably get that example. So that's my
Yes.
major takeaway. I want to research feeling wheel and then also just think about how can we continue this? Oh my
There you
gosh.
go.
Yes,
Isn't that
thank
amazing
you,
thing? It's
Alexis
like one of my
Urbino,
favorite things.
for pulling that up. Incredible. Probably for our participants, again, that are getting credit, which is terrific, CMP or CAE credit, to think about how can you continue to go deeper, even now, maybe you are face-to-face. So I think that that's great takeaways and great conversations. Thank you, Kelly. Doug Barman. Thank you. Doug Barman, same question. Deeper connections because of technology. What have you seen?
I'm overwhelmed with the feeling wheel here, so I got to get myself ready. But thank you, Bart. I think from my perspective and my team that works with a number of clients, helping them plan their meetings and events, what we've seen is embracing technology. It's been out there for a while. We've talked about virtual meetings and hybrid meetings, and there's been mobile apps for meetings. I don't think it truly was getting embraced at the level, or we understood it until the last few years, what we went through. And what I see now is it's really enhancing the overall experience. And so now we can make connections and, your language, Bart, deeper connections before we head off to that meeting or event, during the event and after. And I think that's where it's adding value. I was just on a plane the last couple of days. I did a quick trip to Dallas, and the gentleman next to me was headed to a conference, a military conference in San Diego, and he was going through the list and checking, the list, who he knew and all that. And he was looking at the sessions, and it reminded me that's been most of my life. I'm on the way to the event, and it's like, well, now let me see if Bart's there, if Kelly's there. And I think where we're enhanced now is we have the technology that we can know in advance who's there. We can actually connect with them through the app or through LinkedIn, and we can set times to meet for coffee. And so we can really enhance the whole experience. And what I've seen some of our clients doing is they're actually doing, like you'll have that first timers reception or whatever. They're now doing a first time or Zoom meeting first. So everyone gets to meet each other on Zoom. So now when you walk into that reception, you're not walking into a room full of strangers, you're walking into a room full of people that you've met before. Yeah. And it's actually kind of funny, the conference I was at, our group had not met in 2 years. They're actually a Canadian-based organization and couldn't get into the US for their meeting. And I was sitting having my dinner, and all of them were in the restaurant just hugging each other and hadn't seen each other in 2 years. And talking about how they had stayed in touch through Zoom, much to what Kelly was saying from a leadership perspective. But it was funny. They were like, oh my gosh, Bart, I thought you were a lot taller than you are. Or, wow, I didn't realize that. It was so much fun. But I think you can create that fun now. So I think all the things that were out there in our industry of the virtual, the hybrid, the apps, I think they're going to evolve a little bit from what we used to use them for. But I think it's going to create this great experience of meetings where we're going to have so much better takeaways. And I think that's what we want. I think this last few years has taught us to be selfish. We're going to pick and choose what events we want to go to, when we want to be away from our family, where we want to be to travel. And there's going to have to be an ROI on that. And I think technology is really going to help that. And so,
yeah, Doug, you bring up you bring up a couple of really great points, that it is enhancing the experience. We all in this industry, we still want people to meet face to face. That's where we're going to get our greatest ideas and our greatest connections, with hugs and handshakes. But your point is you can begin to establish those relationships before the conference and then even after the conference. Right. And I had not really thought about the before aspect. And maybe the before, if it is Zoom and we're talking about what the topics are going to be like, perhaps that would even intrigue people to get more excited of, yes, I need to go to this in-person conference because we are talking about this and I love the ideas and I got so excited. I have to go to Dallas next week because I want to be there, or next year or next month. And it's cool that you say that, because Doug, it's even, I think, strange. I booked an appointment. I'm speaking next in a couple of weeks in Sarasota, and we're having a final prep call with somebody. And my client said, "What is the best phone number for you?" And I was a little surprised. It's always however the customer wants to work, right? Whatever you want, I want to make it easy for you. You are the boss. But it was just interesting because I'm so used to visual communication that I was like, okay, just a phone call. Okay, I can do that. Here's my mobile number. So really fun points, Doug. And thank you for sharing. Martha, on to you. We're going to go with the same question, right? The topic of this conversation. What have you seen in your experience that has allowed deeper connections because of technology?
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we saw and continue to see is your ability to expand your attendee base. And when you had events that were, say 200 or 250 people, and you were capped at that because you wanted to make it an intimate type of event, you now can open it up to 1,000, 2,000 people. We used to get a lot of complaints from, especially for our C-suite client events, where they would say, well, we want other people in our office to be able to hear about what's going on, or we want to be able to bring them. And we had the ability to tier the associates in the client base so that people could, well, you know what? Your office can attend. It can attend at different times. It also won't cost the clients a lot of money to send them to the event. So, and even from internal events where we would do a really high level event with the CEO, and it was geared towards, say, the top 200 people in the firm. Now that event has taken a very different approach, and it's expanded to include many more people. So I think it's technology is tough and it's hard, and you have to, especially during the pandemic where we had to pivot on a dime to be able to figure out. And I remember so many people saying, well, we're not technologists, we're meeting planners, but you had to be able to be a technologist and to be able to. And now I think what's going to happen is that it's going to be hybrid events are going to be what the future is going to be.
Yeah. And you also had referenced whenever you and I chatted about this conversation a little bit earlier about the ability of being able to touch customers more often.
Absolutely.
To be able to connect with. Can you share some examples of what you have seen that have been really successful?
Well, what we ended up doing with, as opposed to having, say, just one huge client event a year, and my team, when I was in corporate America, we did over 1,000 events a year, but there were probably 10 really big client events, and it would be once a year. But then it allowed us to do regional events that were quarterly, so that the salesperson was in that region. They could reach out to the clients in that specific region and say, you know what, I'm going to host a virtual event every month, and feel free, I'm going to tell you what the newest things are. So I think, technology is here to stay, and it allows our ability to communicate with people so much more frequent.
Yeah. And Martha, the example that you just shared about being able to do things more often and communicate more often with clients, the topic again about going deeper with connections, but not only deeper, but more often and more frequent. And how brilliant is that for the planners and for our hotel executives that are on the line right now, to be able to connect either with your members more, your customers more? That's ideal, and often in a very cost efficient way. Thank you.
Well,
Martha.
and it also to what Kelly says, your ability to be able to see people, and where you can have a Zoom call as opposed to just a phone call, and you do deepen those relationships much more.
Outstanding, Martha. Thank you for sharing your ideas. Joshua, we're asking you the same question about deeper relationships by using technology. And I know it's probably 2 a.m. there in Hawaii.
It's not this morning. The last meeting did start at 2 a.m. So I apologize for missing that one. But as far as I guess my standpoint, Kelly took the leadership standpoint. I think I'll take the isolated newbie standpoint, in that I live on Oahu. I am completely isolated from most people that I need to connect with and need to do business with. The reason why I started Sacred Secret to begin with was face-to-face, heart-to-heart interactions. But that was also 7 years ago. And as we all know, a lot has continuously changed over the last few years. And as my desire to reach more people has grown, I'm stuck and I can't bring more people to Hawaii as much as I'd love to. And even though that's where we met, I realized, especially through your tutelage, that I need to be out there more, that there are all these other tools that I should be utilizing much more frequently to get my message out there, that they're there for me to reach the people that need to hear what I want to say. It's not for everybody, but the ones that it's meant for have at least now a way to find it without jumping on a plane, coming to a farmer's market, hopefully finding me, which some people have. And the reason why they had was because of podcasts, was because of the technology, was because Rachel Hollis, who's a very popular podcaster, found her way to find me at the market. And just like you and I, Bart, her and I had a connection and we had great conversation. And then she turned around and on her podcast that reaches almost 2 million people, gave me such a glowing, great review that over the last couple of months now, really random strangers who knew they were coming to Hawaii made it their only purpose was to find me. And none of that would have happened if it wasn't for any of this. So it's really given me some wind in my sails to show me, no. You need to embrace this change of technology. You need to go this route because it's what you really want. You just don't realize that this is the path because you couldn't see it. But I know the universe is truly laying these little breadcrumbs at my feet to guide me along the way.
Yeah. And you know what, Joshua, the things that you just shared, from a meetings and events industry, I initially, when we started the conversation, I was thinking about, okay, deeper communications and using technology like Zoom, using other formats to be able to communicate deeper. But you just kind of simplified it. And that's why I adore talking with you so much, is that it's about spreading your message. And we're using technology, whether it's email, that's technology, LinkedIn, social media, Facebook, TikTok, all of that is technology that is allowing you to spread your message. So think about it. If I am running an association and I want to share a message with the Virginia Association of Community Banks, all of my members, I could embrace using LinkedIn, using other forms of social media to be able to share that thought. So Joshua, I just think that that is so simplistically brilliant, that how are we using technology not only to establish deeper relationships, but also deeper connections and spreading the message. And I know your message is all about positive vibrations, doing good, releasing your soul, and feeling great about the contributions that you're making in this world. So outstanding, Joshua. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And we will have a chance to be able to ask each person one additional question. And again, I love that every single answer is uniquely different based on your experiences. I had the pleasure of having each of the 4 panelists as well as Vinu on my podcast. And I am providing one-page document that has a link if you want to listen to more about their early influences, what has made them successful in what they do, their perspectives on people, on the meetings and events world. So it's really foundational about what have they done that most people don't do to get them to be successful, content, and happy in life. So if you text, and this is new technology for me, and here's another example, deeper relationships, instead of just presenting to 300 people right now, text, most people don't, or text rather 3 letters, MPD, or text BART, B-A-R-T, to this number, 33777. So on your phone, put in the number 33777, and then the message to that would either be BART or MPD. And then in return, you'll get access to one shared document that has a link to every panelist, including the new podcast, and you'll be able to learn some crazy, amazing things. So thank you. The second question, we're going to start with Martha. When we initially discussed, Vinu and I initially discussed technology, we thought that there might be a fear from the meeting planner, the meeting and event industry, the executive director position of, you know what, I should be afraid of technology. I should be afraid of this kind of change because is it going to lessen my responsibilities? And I think we all came up with a conclusion of if you embrace change, it can take you to great places. So the question for Martha is going to be, what advice do you have for people to embrace change?
Well, change is inevitable. And you can, as much as some people who just don't want to deal with change, it's going to hit you in the face at some point in your life. So you're just a lot better off embracing it. I worked for a company for a long time where I felt like I had a new job every 6 months because the senior leaders changed or strategy changed or something changed, and you had to be flexible. And I remember when I started, I asked somebody, what do I need to do to be able to succeed here? And the best response I got and the best advice was be flexible. And I took that to heart. And I think that's something that the world is changing so rapidly. When you think about that, 20 years ago, we didn't even have cell phones, or barely. I mean, we had suitcases in our cars that had phones in them. And look where we are today. I mean, it is a massive change. So, for those, and I sort of laugh at some people that, still have flip phones. You've got to, and you've got to be curious, and because that's the only way you're really going to get along in life today. Because things are spiraling, it's in some ways out of control. And in order to sort of stay grounded, you've got to embrace that change. And as hard as it is sometimes, just go for it. Yeah. And you'll find out that actually it's really worth it.
Yeah. And whenever you started with Fidelity, to add then 26 years on top of that, what would have happened if you did not embrace change?
Well, I would have lasted about a month and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, the advice I got was be flexible, and I took it to heart, and I was able to be flexible. I was able to hire people and gave them the same advice. And I think more and more companies, especially if there are probably people on this call that are involved in startups. You've got to embrace it. It is actually, people used to think of change as being a negative word. It's not. It's very positive. The minute you decide to embrace it, your life becomes incredibly much more positive.
Yeah, and that has been a very popular topic that organizations have been asking me to speak on recently, to talk about change and how to embrace it, and that it's okay and it is inevitable. And before I presented to this group, I actually tapped into Joshua and his expertise in his vision of what is change and how should we embrace it. So Martha, thank you very much for your ideas. Joshua, I just teed you up perfectly here, hopefully, somewhat perfectly.
It's one of my favorite topics.
Yeah, can you share?
Absolutely. I really felt like I had a huge download regarding change and how to understand exactly what it is and how to use that energy for my benefit. Like Martha was saying, it's inevitable. It is a powerful, powerful force that is going to be in our life, whether we want it to be or not, just like gravity. Just like gravity, change is a universal law. When you're talking universal law, it's not called change. It's called perpetual transmutation. And all that universal law simply states is that energy cannot be created. It just changes, or destroyed. It just changes forms. And that's great. That's scientific cookie cutter stuff. What does that actually mean? What does it look like in real life? In real life, it looks like the grass today is longer than it was yesterday. It's never stopped growing. My hair is longer today than it was yesterday. It's never stopped growing. that no snowflake has ever repeated any year ever on any season, on any planet, in any dimension, at any time. There's never been one of the same snowflakes. And if my parents had infinite children, there would never be another me. We take different forms intentionally so that we can all fill a need and fill a spoke in the wheel of life. Change is simply realizing and knowing that anything is possible. Anything is possible. The mind is our infinite realm of possibilities. And the more time we spend in there trying to figure out what would be best for us, because we all know in this moment right now, we may be very happy and very grateful for the way things are in our life. However, I would prefer this to look like this. And I would prefer this to feel like this. And I would prefer this to be here instead. That's us taking where we are in this moment and perceiving it and creating more. And like Martha was saying, when we go against change, there's a disease in our body. That's what we're naturally meant to be doing, is shifting and growing and changing with the tides. And when we don't, when we become very comfortable in our uncomfort, disease really starts to take manifest in our heart and in our mind. And then we're frustrated and we're anxious and we're full of victimization because everything's happening to us, instead of realizing that I am creating this all. And if I don't like the way it is right now, what do I need to do to create change?
Yeah. And Joshua, you and I have talked about this separately with regard to things that are getting into people's way of embracing change. So we could go meetings and events industry, the hospitality industry hit hard during the pandemic. We know that.
There's only one thing in everybody's way.
Tell us, and don't curse.
Never mind that. Their belief system, their own self, what they believe they are possible or capable of doing is the only thing that is in their way. As soon as they can get themselves out of their own way and embrace whatever is being presented to them, i.e. change, in whatever form or function it may be presented to them, that's the path they should start taking. That's the very first step, is to do something new.
Yeah, and what I learned from you is if I am thinking negative thoughts, and I'll just give a quick example. There was a study done by Cleveland Clinic that studied, and I don't know how they did this, but the average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are repetitive, and 85% of the repetitive thoughts are negative. And what I learned from you, Joshua, is that when you have worry come in, realize that it's a thought. It's not me. It's not my soul. It's just a thought. And I can realize a negative thought. And as soon as I realize it, I can push it away. So if I was concerned that we were doing 100 events throughout the year, and then it was just down to 3. So, oh my gosh, I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about technology. What if everything goes to hybrid or everything goes to virtual? How am I going to, that's a negative thought. Change the channel, recognize it, accept it for a second, and then push it out. Anything is possible. I can become an expert in virtual. I can become an expert in hybrid. Things are going to get better, and people will begin meeting again. So what can I do in the meantime until things return more to traveling and meeting face-to-face that will allow me to become better now? And I use this quote, and Joshua, I think I've shared it with you before, but it's from, I can't remember who it's from. Kites rise highest against the wind, not with it. So things were difficult, kites rising.
As humans, we learn best through contrasting experiences.
Yeah.
That's the best way for us to learn, is how not to do it.
Yeah, outstanding. And I continue to learn from every single person. And Joshua, with that, and I'm glad when you were referencing that grass grows and hair grows and your hair grows, I'm glad you didn't say anything about mine.
I didn't want to touch it.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I didn't want to go there.
Everything grows except Bart's hair.
I think we were both on that same page.
Sadly.
Chose to not say it.
Okay. I will again reference to see if anyone has any questions here, just a pause. Please put it into what box again, the chat box or the Q&A, whatever is easier, and then I will reference it here. Doug Barman, Joshua, thank you for sharing. Doug, can you share what advice do you have for people to embrace change?
I really appreciated Joshua's remark, and I think I wish I had met him 30 some years ago when I started in this industry. I would put myself in this being over 30 years in our industry, but I think the hospitality and the meeting planning industry, myself included, were always very slow to embrace change. And I don't think there's a lot of positives that necessarily came out of the last couple of years, but I think one of them was that we were forced to embrace change. And I know I've talked with you, Bart. I mean, we have clients we work with that you could pull their annual meeting agenda from, let's just say, a long, long time ago, and it would flow exactly like it is next month when they hold it again. And I think what we were seeing like in 2019, when things were going really well, I think we had organizations we were working with that were starting to adapt their agendas. They were seeing that people were more health conscious, that perhaps wanted to get up in the morning and do a workout. And so instead of having this conference that, it was this badge of honor that you were at breakfast at 7:30 and every 30 minutes was filled until 5:30 at night before you went to the reception, they started to see, hey, we got to give people breaks and let them exercise, let them have that health and wellness. You started hearing about it, but I don't think we were truly embracing it. Maybe we put healthier food out on our breaks, but we didn't actually give people a room to go sit with someone like Joshua and talk or meditate or do something in the middle of the day. And so you started to see that. And I think what we're seeing now, Bart, is I think we all have a sense of values. You see people moving from cities to the country or vice versa, that they want to live and work where they want to be now. And I think we have to embrace that as planners of events and understand that meetings probably need to look a little bit differently than they did before. We're not just going to come back to business as usual. There's different expectations. And I think sometimes it's blamed on, many of us have kids in this age group and they're getting blamed for everything, that they don't want to do this or they don't want to do that. I tend to look at it as they're probably teaching us some better habits that we need to have, that life is important, friends are important, family is important. It's not all about work. So embrace it and do it the right way. And the event I was just at, and some of our clients are doing a great job right now of kind of surveying their members, even whether it's a corporate or an association meeting, and saying, tell us a little bit about what you would like to see, what you would like to experience, because it's all about the experience now. If I'm going to leave my home for 3 days, I'm going to take the risk of being on a plane and traveling and all that. I want to make sure it's worth my time. And so I think it's really important that we embrace the change, and the lessons we just learned from the others, I think are so valuable. I just think it's important, especially in our industry, to wake up and say it's time that we need to do things differently. We don't have to have breakfast today, the break at 10:15, the break at 2:15. We can do things differently and it'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that's hard in our industry, Bart. It's really hard.
Yeah, no, and I'm so with and in tune with what you're saying, Doug, that it doesn't need to be the same agenda that it was from 40 years ago. And I'll just share an example. I just got back, last night from Aspen, and I'm not bragging. This is just the situation. And Doug, I don't know if you saw on LinkedIn, but there was a dog mascot for this particular luxury hotel that I was presenting to.
Yeah.
And this dog was present during the entire meeting. And it was so well behaved, it could go wherever it wanted to. And at one point it came up next to me, front of the room, and sat down, and I am sharing this message of most people don't, but you do, and I'm petting this dog. That was change for me. I had never been to a meeting before in which there was a 130-pound Bernese Mountain Dog walking around, but it was different and it was fun and it was special, but it was change. So
I think, Bart, too, the hotel side, they need to do it as well, and we're starting to see it. Things like you just mentioned with the dog, or I worked for a hotel company that I was told by one boss that it was almost like we had a binder on the shelf that told us what to do on Monday, what to do on Tuesday. You had no freedom, no flexibility, and that's probably where I am outside of that company now, because that's not the way I worked. I always wanted to be growing and changing, and I think you're seeing incredible hotel leaders. You can tell the difference between the leaders in a hotel right now that have embraced change and figured out during COVID, they turned their porte cochere into a drive-through and they served the coffee that they were famous for or the dessert they were famous for.
Yep.
I met one general manager at a hotel. He's got 2,000 rooms, and so he sold toilet paper out of it. He was good. What am I going to do with all the toilet paper in a 2,000 room hotel? So he started selling toilet paper. I'm like, but those are funny, but they're brilliant ideas. And there's other people that they've come back after this and they're trying to run their business exactly like it was in 2019. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Yeah, so smart. And then just even look at this diversity of people from a background perspective. So very, very unique. A spiritual gangster from Hawaii and a positivity perfectionist from Boston, and just a kindness strategic thinker from Naples. It's so unique. And
how do Martha and I get gangster into our title? That's all we want to know.
Yeah. All right,
There's
Doug,
a course for that, Doug. You got to take my 3-week course.
There's an online course.
You get a t-shirt
Haven't you
afterwards.
taken the gangster course yet?
You get a t-shirt and a tattoo afterwards.
That's
Yeah.
right. All right.
Sweet.
Well, Doug, thank you very much for your ideas. Before we go to the last panelist for their opinion with that question, there was a question that came in, and Joshua, I'm going to direct this one to you. How do you deal with positivity that is being perceived as being toxic?
Whose perception? And what energy is being showed up in that moment? Are you coming to work? Are we coming to work and it's somebody else who's pretending to be positive, but we feel it as negative? How are we feeling that day to begin with? Because at the end of the day, we always have to turn the mirror back around on us.
Mm-hmm.
What am I manifesting? Why is this person showing me this kind of energy? Have I been false or not 100% genuine with other people in my life? And maybe now that I'm trying to make those changes, I'm now manifesting that so I can see, oh, that's what that energy looks like and feels like from this side of it. I'm pretty non-responsive to that energy. So I need to make sure that whenever I present to somebody in that sense, I am 100% genuine and on and in with what I'm trying to say. That way, nothing is misconceived as something else. Our energies are very, very, very sensitive and very delicate. And the more we evolve, the more sensitive we are coming to not only our own energies, but the energy of the person in front of us. I learned 15 years ago that all the negative thoughts in my head aren't all mine. That they may be the person sitting in front of me, that I'm picking up on them. And so I realized by getting quiet, by getting solitude and getting alone, who I am and what I am and when I'm off and when I'm not off. So if I'm showing up to work feeling a little bit off, of course I'm going to manifest somebody who is making me feel like what they're saying is off. I use the term off because people they push back very much against I'm being lied to or manipulated with. When I say off, I just mean not 100% genuinely you. You're thinking about the kids, you're thinking about the spouse, you're thinking about the bills, you're thinking about this, and you're not 100% here in this moment in you with that person. So my advice to it is always check ourselves.
Yes.
And am I showing up wholeheartedly? And is this person reflecting how I'm actually feeling? It's about being honest with ourselves, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right. And you, I think, asked the real appropriate question, Joshua, is that who is perceiving it as being toxic? I could come in and being a rah, this is great, this is great, this is great. And if you perceive me as being annoying or too rah or disingenuine, it's maybe not me, the rah person or the positive person. It's you. It's how you're looking at it and why are you looking at it a certain way. So love it. And this just shows that if you are putting questions into the chat box, that we will certainly address them. And we have just a few more minutes. Kelly, I'm going to ask you, and we will finish this until we conclude. I'm going to ask you the same question.
Yes. Well, actually, Bart, if you're okay, I'd like to go a little personal on this one for my answer about embracing change, because I believe that embracing change is so important, and it's so important to pick positive. I pick positive. So 5 months ago, my job of 15 years that I loved was eliminated. And that was a big shock to me. I took a few days. I ate a lot of Oreos because they make everyone feel better. I surrounded myself with positive people and reached out and snapped out of it. And it's like, all right, this is an amazing opportunity I have. This is a gift. This is a huge change that I need to embrace. I need to pick the positive. So, I'm 5 months now past that point. I feel, very much renewed. I'm excited. I'm enthusiastic for this new chapter I'm creating. I'm just excited and positive, like, here we go. And then, during my time here these past few months, when I've been kind of trying to figure it out, enjoying who I am and learning more about me, I injured myself doing something I love, playing tennis. So I'm on the 8-week mark. And I have to say, I spoke with Joshua and I told him about my injury, and he said, it's your leg, and that means you need to move forward. Like, he was so positive, but almost like a little shake, like, wake up, move yourself forward. And that's what I did. So I started taking a Cornell wellness consulting class, coaching class. I continued being the head accountability coach for my strength group that I have of a bunch of women in my town. And, 8 weeks, yesterday I lost my brace and my crutches, and today I took my first Peloton ride. So I am just enthused. I'm feeling great and positive, and I just want to share that with others. And I think the big key message to embracing change is hard, and it can be hard, but you have to understand how to flip it to that positive to help yourself and others move forward and find that next best thing, because you're just going to keep growing upwards. So that's the whole point to me about embracing change. It just betters you and your mind, heart, body, soul.
And what a great, and I started this conversation by saying about your spirit and your positivity. And as a thank you, I have been creative in sending thank you gifts to people that have been on the podcast. Martha, yours is still coming, and Doug, I have to figure out what your t-shirt is going to say. But for Kelly, what did it say on your t-shirt?
Said pick positive, and it is the coolest t-shirt. I've been wearing it around town, and people are like, where can I get one of those?
Yeah, but pick positive, right? That was your message, and I remember that message, and I will then share that with everyone else. There's a couple of different paths to go through. Yes, we have change coming at us. Yes, things are not always easy. We have obstacles, but it's up to me in my mind, and I'm going to pick positive. I'm going to go in this direction. Eat your stack of Oreos and move on. I just think that that's also a very simplistic yet powerful message.
Yeah, that's
so
an
Kelly,
awesome message.
Kelly, thank you for opening up and sharing. Martha, we still have to figure out what your t-shirt's going to be. I got to work on that. So to our participants, to our panelists, first of all, thank you. I can do a quick summary, but I also wanted to see if anyone else had any great examples that they think are just rock star examples about how they've been using technology to establish deeper connections. Do you have any suggestions for everybody? Oh, love it. Zoom fatigue and technology overload is a real thing. How do you overcome this? Events are one thing, but not every meeting or phone call now needs to be video, nor should you assume that someone wants it to be, right? Phones can be for calling. It just doesn't have to be for texting and looking at social media. You're absolutely right. How do we overcome Zoom fatigue? And I've been hearing from a lot of different people, like, not another happy hour. And it was great and fun when people, would send me a little whatever that you happen to drink. It's like, okay, let's meet at 6 p.m. and okay, right. How else can we do it? And just my suggestion based on this is that what I love is that not a single person since we started this call has left. Not a single person. And I think it's because of the uniqueness, the realness, the authenticity. No one is reading from a script. Like, I'm looking at some notes here and there, but it is real. Every single one of you is being real. We're joking about losing hair. Martha can joke to me about not smiling enough. My face is getting red because I forgot to, all right, I'm a little too hot. But I think it's real and authentic and meaningful. And I think that's what we need more of. We need more diversity of thought, more diversity of action, learn from people, embrace change, pick positive, follow the breadcrumbs. And gosh, I have about 97 other quotes that I just learned from all of you.
Hey, Bart, I think it's a great question, though. I think an added thing now, because I think you mentioned earlier, someone was asking you to speak. I think it's a new thing we now need to ask. Would you prefer to be on a phone call? Is there a document we need to review, or is there a reason we should be on a Zoom or a Teams call? Would that work better? I think it's just another step. It's kind of like, do you want to meet in your office, or do you want to meet at the coffee shop down the street? It's a similar type question now. Are you more comfortable, speaking? Because sometimes people are traveling or they're not Zoom ready or whatever. So we shouldn't just assume people want to be on camera all the time either. Because I mean, I know you just took your jacket off. We don't know if you're wearing pants or not, right? So I mean, it's like, but anyway, I'm just saying. And I also think, and we've talked about it, like the dog at the convention. I think this whole change thing is pretty cool. You can hear a dog barking in the background or a plane going. It's not, no one panics anymore like we used to. Like, oh my God, now they know I work from home or whatever. So, but I do think it's a great question, and I think it's just make sure when you're having the interaction, ask what they're most comfortable with. A phone call, face to face, Zoom, whatever it is.
Yeah, and Vinu, you had some thoughts on what solution would you offer for Zoom fatigue?
Doug, just to kind of piggyback on what you're saying is that not everything has to be on Zoom and not everything has to be technology, and asking what is appropriate for that purpose, how to best accomplish that. Even though I am really big advocate for event tech, I also know that it's not always the right thing to do. Having a birthday party on Zoom is not fun. So it's probably not something I would do. But I think what's going to happen as we see the change, as more people embrace it and become more positive about it, I think we're going to be challenging those thoughts. What is appropriate for what kind of event, and throughout the day? And I think it's just going to be an exciting time for our industry.
Yeah, well said, well said. So to summarize, there again, so many terrific takeaways. Pick positive, follow the breadcrumbs. You're being able to not only reach people, but you're able to reach people more often. You can have deeper connections with them. And if we think about all of the lessons that I personally learned, that hopefully you all have learned, the panelists as well, we didn't have to jump on a plane. We didn't have to take a cab or drive to the airport. We didn't have to stay overnight, be away from family, yet we were able to still learn something new and hopefully get some new ideas and make 6 or 7 new friends as a result of this kind of conversation. Be willing then to help each other with anything that we need to do. If we didn't have this type of technology, we wouldn't have been able to do it. So Vinu and Alexis, cannot thank you enough to EVA for sponsoring this, coming up with the idea and assisting with the marketing of it. To be able to have this many attendees stay on the entire time is just brilliant. The link again that I was referencing, if you text MPD or BART to 33777, you can get just a one-page document that has the links to all of the podcasts of our panelists. So every single person that's on this panel, including Vinu, was on the podcast. The contact information, I think you had already shared, Vinu. So thank you very much. We're all in this big, wide world together, let alone this fun meetings and events industry. And we are certainly here to help in any way, shape, or form. Vinu, any closing comments? And thank you again for the idea.
Oh, my pleasure. And it has actually been, we are the ones that benefited from hearing from all of you. Bart, thank you so much for pulling together such a wonderful panel of diverse thinking, different industries. I think we need more of this, and it's great to hear these conversations and to keep it going and all the positivity. We can't get enough. The sunshine is great. Joshua can't hug all the sun out there in Hawaii, so sharing it is great. But I appreciate all of you. Bart, thank you so much. And for all of you that have joined us and stayed with us, thank you very much. As I mentioned before, we will send out a recording of this out to you, and as well as some of the documents, the contacts and everything else. And you'll also get your CAE and CMP credits. Yay. But thank you so much, everyone. Hope you join us for our future webinars. You can always catch us at evareg.com/webinars. Have a great, wonderful week, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.